Everyone, welcome. Thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate you coming out. Who knew it was going to rain? I didn't. But you all did because you all have umbrellas. Anyway, thank you for coming. I'm Charlotte Harper. I'm the Director of Programming here at Hill Center. For how many of you is this your first time at Hill Center? That's great. We love having events that bring in new people, and it seems like this series, Life of a Poet, with Ron Charles, is one of those series. We are so happy to have Ron and the Library of Congress partner with us on this series. We could not obviously do this without them. We are thrilled. And we are thrilled today to welcome Ross Gay, and can't wait to hear about his work. And by the way, his work is being sold out here on the right-hand side by East City Bookshop, a nice local bookshop, women-owned and operated. Yes. But right now, I'd like to turn it over to Rob Casper, the head of the Poetry and Literature Center at Library of Congress. So give it up.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for coming out. I'm curious, how many people came last week, too? Wow. Check you out. This weather is marginally better than, me too. Marginally better than last week. But we hope you continue to come to this series as we do, rain or shine. All right. I want to thank Charlotte and everyone here at the Hill Center for making this series possible. It's wonderful to be back here in this great room with all of you tonight. I also want to thank the Washington Post and my personal hero, Ron Charles. Two of these conversations is a lot to take on in 1 week, but
I was happy to do it.
And we're happy to have you here, making it possible. Before I say anything more, I just want to tell you a little bit about the Poetry and Literature Center at the Library of Congress. We are home to the Poet Laureate Consultant in Poetry, and in fact, our Poet Laureate, Tracy K. Smith, will be giving her closing event on April 15th. April 15th, yeah. So you should come check her out down the street at the Jefferson Building. We also host a range of programs. We'll have all sorts of programs between now and April 15th over at the library's Capitol Hill campus. If you want to find out more about the library, you should visit our website, www.loc.gov/poetry. And we would really also love to know what you think about tonight's program. On your seats, there should be some surveys. If you could fill them out, you can leave them on the chairs afterwards. You can hand them to me. We want to make sure to get them and find out what we can do better going forward. Though with Ron, there's not much we can do better.
I filled most of them out already.
He said, "Why does that introducer go on so long?" So Ada Limon kicked off our spring series last week. We're thrilled to have Ross Gay here to end it a week later. That's great. If only winter was this short. Ross Gay is the author of 3 books, Against Which, Bringing the Shovel Down, and Catalog of Unabashed Gratitude, winner of the 2015 National Book Critics Circle Award and the 2016 Kingsley Tufts Award. Indeed. He is also the founding editor of the online sports magazine, Some Call It Ballin', and an editor of the Chapel Press's Q Avenue and Ledge Mule Press. He is, as well, a founding board member of the Bloomington Community Orchard, a nonprofit free fruit for all food justice and joy project, which is a great, great description. He's received fellowships from Cave Canem, the Bread Loaf Writers Conference, and the Guggenheim Foundation. He is currently a professor of English and director of the creative writing program at Indiana University in Bloomington, where he lives. Of all the poets we've featured in this series, Ross Gay has arguably been the most anticipated. This is partly due to the fact that our dear Ron Charles served on the committee that awarded Gay his National Book Critics Circle Award for Catalog of Unabashed Gratitude just a few years ago. The Washington Post, and not Ron, but Elizabeth Lund, called Catalog, quote, a charming collection that gives readers permission to feel joyful. Losses, small slights, and large issues, such as prejudice and violence, also appear, yet the speaker always tries to translate everything back into the original language of possibility. Ron had the opportunity to meet our future poet at the prize ceremony in New York and hear him read, and I believe he's been smitten ever since. I, too, have been struck by Ross Gay's poems, which NPR says, quote, burst forth in leggy, unexpected ways, zooming in on legs furred with pollen or soiled breasts stroking into the xylem, end quote. Tess Taylor had a lot more fun than Elizabeth Lund in that description.
I didn't edit Tess.
Though Ross and I have never met, and I've never heard him read, I'll never forget the day I read Catalog of Unabashed Gratitude cover to cover. I was staying with friends down in Austin, and I woke up one morning to glorious sunlight pouring through the blinds of my friend's office. In the course of getting up, my eye caught Gay's third collection with its stunning cover art by Arista Alanis sitting atop a pile of books. It's right here. Yeah. I thought to myself, this has been getting a lot of play, and picked it up with the intent to simply leaf through, then head to the kitchen for breakfast. Well, let me tell you, I did not leave that room until I'd gone from To the Fig Tree on 9th and Christian, straight through to Last Will and Testament, and I was good and full of poetry. The same could be said of what we're about to experience right now, and I'll bet you, too, won't ever forget the magic of this moment. Please join me in welcoming Ron Charles with Ross Gay.
I am delighted you're here.
Thank you. Same here.
And we get him first. You know, his new book comes out next Tuesday. And here he is, the Book of Delights. And it is delightful. It's not poetry. It's a collection of brief essays that he said he wrote because the more you study delight, the more delight there is to study. My delight grows when I share it. You will want to get this, read it, and feel the delight and the joy. In the middle of this piece, I'm reading along, you know, enjoying them all. And then number 64. It's about poetry readings. So he's not going to read not going to read from this again, but I did want him to read a bit of this first essay to start us off, if you would.
Totally. It's called, this title was so hard to get right. We really tried on this. It's called number 64, Fishing an Eyelash, 2 or 3 cents on the virtues of the poetry reading. It might be a kind of self-aggrandizement to say so, but I love poetry readings. I love going to them. I think I love them. I probably love them most often more than I love poetry books. I'm pretty sure this is true. The reason is simple, because during a poetry reading, you are watching someone communicate with their body, which is as it communicates in the process of fading away. It will, perhaps one day soon, be dead, I mean. It sounds necrophilic, I know, but it's not exactly. Because the fact of the dying, which too you and I will do, and which books will not, reminds us that the performing body, the reading body, the living body, the body fiddling with the reading lamp on the podium or playing with the hem of her dress or keeping beat on the microphone like Whitney Houston used to, looking into the corners of the room, the occasional sparkling line of spit between his lips, the armpit of their t-shirt damp, pointing to the giraffe in their poem, all of it is lustrous.
Nice. There's a charming, disruptive self-consciousness in some of your poems when you suddenly speak directly to us about the very act of writing poems. Yeah. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And in one poem, you speak of burning the world down to rebuild it, and then you stop and admit, well, that sounds like a bullshit poem in the making.
That's right, yeah.
And then in a poem called Come On, you describe your mother's hands as the claws of a crab. And then you stop and say, well, that's one of those poetry lies. What are the hallmarks of a bullshit poem? And what are poetry lies?
That's a good question. You know, maybe a great story that I will tell is that my friend Evie was talking about this poem where I say something like that in the new book, poem called Feet. And I said something about, you know, I love it when a poem says I'm trying to do this or I'm trying to do that.
Yes.
Sometimes it's a horseshit trick. But sometimes, and I think the poem means to say, but sometimes, like what I'm doing, it's not. And Evie was like, sometimes I think that's a horseshit trick. So anyway, what was your question?
So what is it? What are the hallmarks of a bullshit poem?
Oh, yeah. God, I don't know. But I know in myself, like there are moments where I'm trying to sort of just do a poem-y thing, you know.
Poem-y thing.
Yeah, I'm trying to do a poem-y thing. And it's like, sometimes it's a real, honest attempt to get at some sort of genuine feeling or something like that. And sometimes I'm imitating the idea of what a poem feels like somewhere. I think something like that.
You're acting like a poet.
Yeah, totally. Like, and I catch myself periodically, like in that one where whatever I said about my mom, and I'm like, that's bullshit, you know. So, and I think it's kind of fun to like leave it in there sometimes too, to be like.
So we see the poem in the process of becoming itself.
Yeah.
No, it's great fun. You teach poetry.
Yeah.
You must see a lot of bullshit poems.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, no more from my students than from myself, though, to be perfectly honest.
I want you to read a poem called To the Mistake, your new collection.
Yeah.
Which is called Catalog of Unabashed Gratitude. Great. To the Mistake.
To the Mistake. It is good to know a thing or two about that of which you speak, or even to be expert, which is not requisite, though a thing or two is good. Like the prop plane I know is going to land on the canvas roof of my friend's rickety Jeep, while the salutatorian to be sits in the back seat, giddy with her new graphing calculator. And the driver says something, I think, about Arsenio Hall, and he sounds like a bunny. So I don't know how to do this poem, really.
What are you doing? You have to just read the poem, then you can talk about it.
I know. If it's better to tell you before, so the story is that I made the error of like taking acid right before this reunion for the gifted
You'll
class.
Get to that
I know, but I don't want you to miss it. All right, you know the poem. Just joking. So, while the salutatorian to be sits in the back seat giddy with her new graphing calculator, and the driver says something, I think, about Arsenio Hall. And he sounds like a bunny in an echo chamber, but it's hard to hear with those propellers roaring above. And today, I am lecturing on the miracle of the mistake in a poem. That hiccup or weird gift that spirals or jettisons what's dull and landlocked into as yet untraversed, i.e. cosmic. I overuse this metaphor with my students. Grounds. I tell this to 105, give or take, undergrads who mostly don't care and wrestle second to second the by now blood-borne drive to check their beckoning phones, which mostly, bless them, they don't. The mistake, I say, is a gift. Don't be afraid. See what it teaches you about what the poem can be. I know of what I speak, like the 2 tabs of very potent, evidently, acid I dropped 4 hours before this reunion and graduation party of sorts for we, the gifted and talented. Corn chips and Mr. Pibb and store-bought cookies, the texture of which sunk me knee-deep in a desert. I imagine I looked something like an opaque cloud that day when Mr. and Mrs. Simonoski, our brainy hosts and teachers, guffawed in claymation, the tremendous bead of spit balancing on Mr. Simonoski's lip before a gust of air lifted it, and it drifted to the coarse fabric of his beard, all the spiny hairs of which seemed to screech like crickets. And no wonder I declined the invitation from the volleyball court, although I was a phys ed major. And beneath the white arcs, the ball painted in the sky, my classmates Lisa and Eugene and Ick and Becky all looked a bit alien, with craniums engorged slightly and spines compressed, if not even serpentine, their limbs flailing about wildly like cuttlefish, speaking only in polysyllabics, which must have made my breathy grunts all the more apish. Who knows where the poem will lead you? I tell them to let go their reins and listen to the tongue's half-wit brilliance, the corner of the mind made light by some accidental yoking of 2 impossibly joined things. 1 or 2 in the rear, I notice their eyes roll into the backs of their heads. And my plastic cup of root beer by now is spilling a bit while Mr. Simonoski laughs like a hyena, plunging its face in a ruptured gut. And nothing has ever been as clear to me as the bell that rang in my head that day. We were a 12-year experiment. The garden variety brainiacs from a suburban school, passable genetic mixture, forgettable location, Mr. Sim's oddly large eyes and his long reptilian tail now making sense. And the way someone with an electric can opener voice seemed always to be inside him, speaking when he spoke. now making sense as the night winds down and the last of the cake is served, writhing with some fluorescent scrawl only I seem able to read, while all the good-natured kids whose fingernails are chewed raw and jaws pulse, who are so good, so very good, and soon will be hauled into the bottomless sky under which I stumble to see what direction they're coming from, and can I run?
That is one of the most fun poems about writing a poem.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
The miracle of the mistake in a poem. That hiccup or weird gift that spirals or jettisons what's dull and landlocked. The mistake, I say, is a gift.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
Here, I would like to reference Patrick Rosal's essay, The Art of the Mistake. And, you know, really it feels to me like, someone talk about teaching, so much of my teaching and so much of my writing life, like when I'm discovering things, I feel like so often I'm doing something that really feels accidental. It feels like I bump into something, you know? So the accident or the mistake is the thing that I never would have done for whatever reason. I don't know how it gets there. For whatever reason, something happens, and it is more true or more like, you know, something is revealed in a way that I could not have sort of willed myself to do. Something like that. And
you want your students to become self-conscious of that process.
I want to sort of train all of us to, I mean, when I'm talking to the intro to creative writing class, which is, you know, I just would be glad if they came every once in a while, you know. But like when I'm thinking about my, you know, further along students, I am thinking about how is it that we can allow ourselves or set up the conditions for ourselves to write things that we otherwise could not have explored, so that our knowledge itself is not the sort of determining or predetermining sort of limit of what we can make, you know. So we know something, but then there's this other kind of knowing. And my hope as a teacher and as a whatever, someone who makes stuff, is that I'm able to sort of figure out how to bump into those other kinds of knowing, you know?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's lovely. You describe the poetry-making process in a variety of ways. In one poem called The Opening, there's this gorgeous description of you pruning a peach tree. And you describe pruning away until you say the air and the light and even a bird can flow through it.
Yeah.
It seems to me you're talking about, among other things, editing a
Yeah.
poem.
Yeah, that's totally right. That's all right, Dave.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
In The Spoon, you write, I swore when I got into this poem, I would convert this sorrow into some kind of honey with the little musics I can sometimes make with these scribbled artifacts of our desolation. Tell us about that, converting sorrow into honey.
That poem is so like trying hard to make sense of something that's doesn't make sense.
It says that in the poem.
Yeah, exactly. But
I think many of your poems are making honey out of sorrow.
Yeah, that's right. I think that was a poem where I realized it more sort of profoundly than maybe in some other poems. And yeah, it occurred to me that often the act of writing a poem for me is to make sense of something that doesn't make sense. Or maybe, I don't know, yeah, something like that. And it arrived in that poem, that sort of thing of like, oh, this is kind of what we do. This is kind of what we do. Like try to organize or order or make beautiful what doesn't make sense, you know?
The honey sounds sweet, the risk being saccharine. Your poems take on some really, really tough, horrible issues. They are not sweet poems, generally.
Yeah.
The scribbled artifacts of our desolation are really clear in some of these poems. Would you read a poem called For a Young Emergency Room Doctor?
Yeah.
Take the tab.
Yeah. For a young emergency room doctor. Although this prayer should first dress the dead boy's wounds, 9 gunshots, in and out, the spine pierced and wrecked enough to twist the head's dangle backward, and before the body, the night through which the bullet chewed, and the latex sheathing the hands of the cops who dragged and dropped the boy on the gurney, last touch of this world gloved, and the heart's dirge, dwindling lament for spilled blood, lost love. 2, for the blankets of light wrapping him, jeweling the viscous liquid slicking his lips. It's for the living, for those who close the boy's eyes again and again, for whom salve is the wound's mend, the eased bleed, who tell the story while eating, who too die at the dying's rising pile.
This is written from some personal experience.
Yeah, this is my best, one of my best friends is an ER doctor, and I was getting my PhD in English while he was in med school. So we were living together, and I was sort of with him while he was in training. So, he was encountering all kinds of,
It's incredibly common for ER doctors.
Yeah, totally.
What city was this in?
Philly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't read that poem in a long time.
There's another poem called The Bullet in Its Hunger. It's number 4.
Yeah. The bullet in its hunger. The bullet in its hunger craves the womb of the body, the warm thrum there, begs always release from the chilly, dumb chamber. Look at this one whose glee at escape was outshone only by the heavens above him. The night's even-keeled breath, all things thus far dreams from his cramped bunker. But now, the world. Let me be a ravenous diamond in it, he thinks, chewing through the milky jawbone of this handsome 17-year-old. Of course, he would have loved to nestle amidst the brain's scintillant catacombs, which, only for the boy's dumb luck, slipped away. But this will do. The bullet does not, as the boy goes into shock, or as his best friend stutters, palming the fluid wound, want to know the nature of the conflict, nor the sound of the shooter's mother in prayer, nor the shot child's future harmonies, the tracheostomy's muffled wheeze threaded through the pencil's whisper as the boy scrawls, "I'm scared." No. The bullet, like you, simply craves the warmth of the body. Like you, only wants to die in someone's arms.
That's an incredibly unnerving poem. And paired with the other one, there's nothing sweet or honey. Nothing was transformed into honey in those poems. What inspires poems about that kind of endemic American violence?
I guess trying to figure out, some entry to think about what feels like such a profound failure of the imagination. It just feels, some way of talking about how this is even possible among, people who ostensibly care for each other or can
like why it would become normal to lose 85 people a day to gun violence.
Exactly.
And
It's just a thing. It's just what it is. It's, and of course you talk to, it's fucking crazy.
yeah.
It's fucking crazy. And I guess in a way the poem is just trying to be like, I don't even know, trying to just further sort of contend with the craziness.
Well, it upsets our apathy, I think. It's so creepy and unnerving that it forces us to contend with this violence in a completely different and unsettling way.
Right.
A lot of the violence in your poems is linked to racism. In the Book of Delights, this is the essay collection that will come out Tuesday, you write, "I'm trying to remember the last day I haven't been reminded of the inconceivable violence black people have endured in this country. Innocence is an impossible state for black people in America who are, by virtue of this country's fundamental beliefs, always presumed guilty. if you'd read this poem. Postcard.
Postcard, lynching of an unidentified man circa 1920. I don't want to read it.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Though.
Okay. How about Pulled Over on Short Hills, New
Yeah,
Jersey?
yeah, I can read that.
There was a display at the, a show at the Portrait Gallery.
Yeah,
Just went down.
yeah.
You remember the name of the photographer? She took photos of lynchings and through some magic took out the bodies. And so all we're left with are these grinning white people looking at the camera.
Yeah, yeah.
They're absolutely unspeakably horrible.
Yeah, yeah. Pulled over in Short Hills, New Jersey, 8 a.m. It's the shivering, when rage grows hot as an army of red ants and forces the mind to quiet the body. The quakes emerge, sometimes just the knees, but at worst, through the hips, chest, neck, until, like a virus slipping inside the lungs and pulse, every ounce of strength tapped to squeeze words from my taut lips, his eyes scanning my car's insides, my eyes, my license, and as I answer the questions 3, 4, 5 times, my jaw tight as a vice, his hand massaging the gun butt, I imagine things I don't want to, and inside beg this to end before the shiver catches my hands, and he sees and something happens.
I have had you read these brutal poems because we're about to talk about gratitude. And I want your audience to know that you have contended with the most horrible aspects of life and still somehow persist in joy. And it's the most remarkable thing about you. In some of your poems, we can see you moving back and forth between delight and horror in really surprising, unsettling ways. Grief to joy. It's a signature maneuver in some of your poems. Would you read Ode to Buttoning and Unbuttoning My Shirt?
Yeah.
7.
Yeah. I had such a nice time last night. I was reading at Villanova, and a couple students had read the book, and they were talking about this poem, and when they were talking to me, they were sort of like buttoning and unbuttoning. It was great. Ode to Buttoning and Unbuttoning My Shirt. No one knew, or at least I didn't know they knew. No one knew, or at least I didn't know they knew, what the thin discs threaded here on my shirt might give me in terms of joy. This is not something to be taken lightly. The gift of buttoning one's shirt slowly top to bottom or bottom to top, or sometimes the buttons will be on the other side, and I am a woman that morning, slipping the glass through its slot. I tread differently that day, or some of it anyway. My conversations are different, and the car bomb slicing the air and the people in it for a quarter mile, and the honeybee's legs furred with pollen mean another thing to me than on the other days, which too have been drizzled in this simplest of joys. In this world of spaceships and subatomic this and that, 2, maybe 3 times a day some days, I have the distinct pleasure of slowly untethering the one side from the other, which is like unbuckling a stack of vertebrae with delicacy. For I must only use the tips of my fingers, with which I will one day close my mother's eyes. This is as delicate as we can be in this life, practicing like this, giving the raft of our hands to the clumsy spider and blowing soft until she lifts her damp heft and crawls off. We practice like this, pushing the seed into the earth like this. First in the morning, then at night, we practice sliding the bones home.
It's so lovely. And you hear that movement back and forth, and it's surprising each time, right? It starts so light, funny. This is not to be taken lightly, the pleasure of buttoning my shirt.
Yeah.
And then the car bomb suddenly slices the air. Those delicate fingers with the buttons are suddenly closing. It's surprising again and again. Would you read a poem called Feet?
Oh, yeah.
This also feels so light and funny. It's not. It's not just that.
Yeah. Feet. The things that you might need to know is that The Real World was a show. Maybe it is a show still on MTV.
This looks like an MTV crowd.
They canceled it.
Oh, they can't? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, young person.
Thank you. Yeah. And the other one is Power Man and Iron Fist. So that's a comic book. Luke Cage is Power Man. Power Man and Iron Fist was what I read when I was a kid. Feet. Friends, mine are ugly feet. The body's common wreckage stuffed into boots. The second toe on the left foot is crooked enough that when a child asks, "What's that?" of it, I can, without flinch or fear of doubt, lie that a cow stepped on it, which maybe makes them fear cows, for which I repent, in love as I am with those philosophical beasts who would never smash my feet nor sneer at them the way my mother does. We always bought you good shoes, honey. She says, you can't blame us for those things. And for this and other, my mom's been in the crowd like when I've read that poem, and she loses her mind at that line. She like falls out of her seat laughing. And for this and other reasons, I have never indulged in the pleasure of flip-flops, shy or ashamed, digging my toes like 10 tiny ostriches into the sand at the beach with friends who I'm not sure love me. Though I don't think Tina loved me. She liked me, I think, but said to me, as we sat on lawn chairs beside a pool where I lifeguarded and was meticulous at obscuring from view with a book or towel my screwy friends, you have pretty feet. In that gaudy cement mixer Levittown accent that sends all the lemurs scaling my ribcage to see. And she actually had pretty feet. And so I took this as a kindness incomparable and probably fell a little bit in love with her for that afternoon, with the weird white streak in her hair and her machine gun chatter and her gum snapping. And so I slid my feet from beneath my Power Man and Iron Fist comic book into the sun, for which they acted like plants, opening their tiny mouths to the food hurtling to them through the solar system. And like plants, you could watch them almost smile, almost say, thank you. You could watch them turn colors and be almost emboldened, none of which Tina saw, because she was probably digging in her purse, or talking about that hottie on The Real World, or yelling at some friend's little sister to put her ass in her trunks, or pouring the crumbs of her Fritos into her thrown open mouth. But do you really think I'm talking to you about my feet? Of course she's dead. Tina was her name, of leukemia. So I heard. Why else would I try sadly to make music of her unremarkable kindness? I'm trying, I think, to forgive myself for something, I don't know what. But what I do know is that I love the moment when the poet says, I'm trying to do this, or I'm trying to do that. Sometimes it's a horseshit trick. But sometimes it's a way by which the poet says, I wish I could tell you truly of the little factory in my head, the smokestacks chuffing, the dandelions and purslane and willows of sweet clover prying through the blacktop. I wish I could tell you how inside is the steady mumble and clank of machines, but mostly I wish I could tell you of the footsteps I hear, more than I can ever count, all of whose gates I can discern by listening closely, which promptly disappear after being lodged again here, where we started, in the factory where loss makes all things beautiful grow.
Of course she's dead. How could you do that? No, I want you to answer that. How could you do that?
Do the, what's the that?
Of course she's dead. Catch us up like that.
Yeah.
Set us up like that.
Yeah.
To be devastated like that.
Yeah. I think I'm talking to myself. Yeah, I'm talking to myself at that moment. Sort of realizing the way that memory, I think, the way that memory gets sort of conjured out of that sense of like, oh, that person's not here anymore. Yeah, the sort of unremarkable kindness becomes really remarkable. That's
Sanctified.
it. Sanctified. Yeah, totally. Totally.
In the poem.
Yeah. And I think it's probably, I'm realizing that in the course of writing it, like trying to, yeah. Something like that.
That little factory in your head, the factory where loss makes all things beautiful grow.
Yeah.
That's the poetic function.
Yeah. Now, I don't think only loss makes
No.
beautiful things grow, but I think probably the fact of loss is always there with the beautiful things that are growing. You know, I think it's probably actually the truth, you know. Even the most abundant and ebullient sort of exultative poem has loss around it, touching it.
If it's honest.
Yeah, if it's honest. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
We're all going to stand up, turn around, and sit back down.
You do this all the time? That's great.
Some of them expect it. Others are shocked.
That's great.
It's not an intermission. You can't leave. I mean, you could leave.
No wine.
No. Okay, sit back down.
I love that.
Learned this from my wife, a high school teacher.
Yeah.
She says, people can't sit that long.
Yeah.
They can't concentrate.
I'll take breaks before I read the long poem in there sometimes.
Okay. Yeah. Why? We're halfway. You've got a poem called Heaven, which is full of some really stark juxtapositions.
God, yeah.
Remember this poem?
Oh, yeah. The heaven. Huh. The heaven. This is the heaven. Pig shit, tulips, a filthy child whose eyes are wide enough to bleed. And his 4 siblings, each hungry as him. Maybe, probably, one will die from some disease that twists the air from his lungs. It will hurt. The heaven is pain inside and out, and love thick as ore. The heaven takes and takes, smirks. It is the weight sink in a burlap sack of kittens, the light warming the silent wake, the mother, a backyard thick with bones. Plunge a thumb in the soil, blood and teeth, song like shrapnel. The heaven is this and more. Sun glancing off the gunwales' backs, and the vultures wait, the creases in a man's face when he enters into prayer, the way his words turn into a shroud of light, a conversation between a man and an idea I can almost see, I can almost believe. I haven't read that poem in years.
It's beautiful and
Wow.
and difficult in many ways.
Mm-hmm.
Emotionally difficult,
Yeah.
theologically challenging.
Yeah.
Heaven
Yeah.
is the light at the wake.
Yeah. This is the heaven. Pig shit, tulips, a filthy child whose eyes are wide enough to bleed, and his 4 siblings, each hungry as him. Maybe, probably, one will die from some disease that twists the air from his lungs. It will hurt. The heaven is pain inside and out, and love thick as ore. The heaven takes and takes, smirks, is the weight sinking a burlap sack of kittens, the light warming the silent wake, the mother, a backyard thick with bones. Plunge a thumb in the soil, blood and teeth, song like shrapnel. The heaven is this and more. Sun glancing off the gunwales' backs, and the vultures wait, the creases in a man's face when he enters into prayer, the way his words turn into a shroud of light, a conversation between a man and an idea I can almost see, I can almost believe.
It's a poem reaching for a sort of complexity and an encapsulation of different things that we can't really contain.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Like, you know, it's sort of, I'm trying to think like what I was thinking about but it's clear that in some way the poem wants to be like, you know, the whole thing is the heaven. That's if there's a theological sort of, it's like the whole thing.
Right.
But that turn at the end, like that conversation between a man and idea, I can almost see. Yeah, it's interesting to me. Yeah, I haven't looked at that poem for years. It's amazing.
So many of your poems are about the persistence of life, what you call the florid burden of living.
Yeah.
Florid burden of living. Could you read a poem called Man Tries to Commit Suicide with a Crossbow?
Yeah. Yeah, like looking at this poem, it's
Wow.
It's this.
Listen to this.
Oh yeah.
It's so gruesome. The man doesn't die. I'll just ruin it for you there. Which is almost worse.
Yeah. Man tries to commit suicide with a crossbow, for Thomas Lux. And that's the first line. Man tries to commit suicide with a crossbow and fails. First, imagine the weapon pointing heavenward beneath his chin. After the trigger's quick tick, the following. What, for said undead, must have sounded like a rocket's stratospheric crash, which is to say the arrow just crested the crown, i.e. it got stuck. At which point, the head now a kebab, said undead had the wherewithal to unscrew the skewer from the little lodged missile and pull it out, to walk to the emergency room. I love to think grace takes strange shapes. The arrow balm to the howl of neurons. To think of that walk beneath the velvet night. Stay with me. Don't think headache. Think instead the star's ancient light warming his just budding horn. Crazy. That's actually one of the stories that my buddy came home with. You know, I don't think he had treated that person, but I think it was
Heard about it.
He had heard about it. You know, it's interesting to me to look at that poem and then say to look at that heaven poem and to look at, you know, so many of the poems that my obsessions have not changed, you know?
Yes, yes.
It's like, damn, that's the same poem, different syntax.
Yes.
You know?
It's so gory, it's funny. I mean, it's hard not to laugh,
Yeah,
even
sure.
though we're horrified.
Yeah.
And then the line about grace taking strange shapes and the light of heaven shining on his budding horn.
Yeah.
I mean, it really does force us to imagine grace amidst horror.
Yeah, I mean, I think it wants to be like, I hope he's okay.
Yes.
You know, here's this whole thing. Like, that's like really trying. I hope he's okay.
Yes.
You know? Man, I haven't read that in a long time either.
I love that poem.
Do any of you know Thomas Lux's poems? Yeah. He died recently. And I'm sort of, he was really my teacher, one of my teachers, and I hear him in that, so he just came in the room.
Outside the wake of a friend's father. It's another poem where the feelings and the themes are not at war with one another, but they're certainly in conflict.
You know, in one of these delights, I say something about, because I have a mind of death,
Yes.
da 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 da, and like all these poems. It's like, yeah, I wasn't lying.
But if you just had a mind of death,
I know, that'd be a bummer. Yeah, that'd be a bullshit poem.
Yeah.
Outside the wake of a friend's father. Although I know I should be trying hard to palpate this common sorrow, to unspool sympathy for the bereaved, stumbling and sobbing inside those doors. My tongue sits like a stone in my mouth, and the truth's matter is I am, right now, contemplating the mysteries of light on an ankle. That one in particular, which, beneath this sun, favors the earth's lush shapes from an airplane. And it might be the dogwood abloom like a gaggle of screaming angels makes me dumb, or the wrenched gut sleight of hand, but that ankle has put death to bed and has me dreaming of the lucky saint whose tongue transcribes channeled sapphic fragments throughout the minute ravines there. And I know I should stop, except I hear my own father's dust at this moment whispering in a breeze, no, no, go on. So let me sing the largest praise upon the subtlest juncture of flesh and bone, bony bud, the pillow upon which scripture was dreamt and writ, mother of the muses and their gowns flowing just above their ankles, and the sun's hot mouth breathing on me in dress pants, afraid to enter the parlor for my own wound lying in that casket, rubs also its lips along that minuscule mountain of motility, crossroads of the foot's Baroque architecture and the girder of the shin, delicate crux culling at once bird song and the melodious stirrings of worms, ecstatic axis whose dragonfly-like skimming of this New Jersey asphalt parking lot sucks gasps and moans from all of Trinidad's tar pits, ankle, for which I would give my good hand to listen to its trillion vascular secrets, which include heartbreak's 4,268 glistening names: silk, stamen, inseam, moonlight, diamond, father, smoke, mirage, ankle. Don't ask, just close your eyes, get on your knees, and pray.
It's an erotic version of Mary Tyler Moore at the clown's funeral. Remember that?
No, what was that?
You know, Chuckles the clown when she goes to the funeral.
No.
And she,
Okay.
she's, you know, she's supposed to be very reverent, but she can't stop laughing during the funeral. You're obviously supposed to be grieving.
Yeah.
And you can't stop
Yeah.
observing this presumed young woman's ankle. Yeah. The persistence of life amidst grief, lust amidst sorrow.
Yeah.
It's lovely and funny.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.